how is the angel approaching Manoah's wife any different than an angel, fallen angel, which would be Satan or Lucifer, approaching Eve, Adam's wife? Welcome back. This is going to be a response to just yesterday's, not last week's, video. I had a great comment. That's a used TV, all broken and nasty. Okay. And it was really good. It challenged me. It made me think and reflect on what I had taught, let alone what I think. Quick interruption again. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook or even on my personal Instagram, I'll be doing these live on my Cinco Stones Instagram, so catch them there. My last main video was about the mark of the beast, and it has a 1-minute little skit in the beginning, and then I'm serious from then on. So if the skit annoys you or offends you or triggers you or something like that, I'm sorry. The rest of the time, I'm kind. Now, first of all, if you don't know what story I'm talking about, it's in Judges chapter 13. If you want to recap, watch my last video. I recap it real quick, and then you can switch back to this one. But I'd also recommend listening to that whole thing. I talked to my wife about it. We had some discussion. I wanted to hear what she had to say about the differences between them. And we had a good discussion. And the thing that I really came to, there's a couple conclusions, is if an angel approached Adam's wife and deceived her, so how do we know that it is a good presence? Well, the point is that it has to be a godly woman. And hopefully you know that you have a godly wife. Let me try to keep these things in order. I've got a couple thoughts in my head. One thing that my wife said is, hey, you know your children. You know how much you can trust them. You know how good or bad of a decision they're going to make. And in so, if you raise your kids, if you know your kids, and in so doing, you should also know how godly your wife is. You should know who she is. If you're not a good dad, you're not going to know your kids very well, and you're not going to know how well to trust them, and you might be surprised by the decisions that they make. Just because your child does something wrong or makes a life decision that you disagree with doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. I'm not going to go all the way there, but I'm talking in the general sense. And the same thing goes with being a husband, is you should be aware of your wife's spiritual growth. I was telling her, and she agreed with this and liked it. It was like, it's a husband's responsibility to nurture your wife's spiritual growth. It's always her responsibility. It's her life. But as a husband, it is our responsibility also to nurture not just her, but the children's lives, to grow spiritually. That responsibility will fall on us when we go to heaven and God asks us about what we did. That responsibility will fall on us. It'll still fall on the wife. She's a parent as well. But there is a certain sense of responsibility that God has given to us. And that's another thing that leads into another thing. Adam wanted to give the responsibility of leading away to Eve. Manoah's wife did not do that. When the angel approached her the second time, she could have said, let me just have this conversation with him, and then he'll leave, and I'll prove to my husband again, hey, I told you, he came to me again. But instead, what does she do? She honors her husband, and she goes and finds him, and he talks to the angel. Even though the wife was right, even though the wife was correct, she honored her husband in all that she did. She did not try to lord over her. She did not try to take the position of leader. She honored her husband, no matter how smart he is depicted in that story. She honored her husband, and that is a sign of a godly woman, of a humble woman. Man, that's a good woman. And that should make every husband want to be better, want to grow, and be that. And so Adam was wanting to give the responsibility of leadership away to his wife. He allowed her to make the decision. Another distinction is that just like Esau gave away his birthright for simple soup, for that. And he shouldn't have. He was giving it away for peace, for pleasure. And so we see stories where people give away things that should be theirs, their role that was given to them, and they give it away. and it's never a good thing. It never ends correctly. The role that God gives you is the role that you should have, and it always benefits you and the people around you best if you do and commit to the role that God has given us. But we're not going to go deep into roles. The last thing is that Adam knew exactly what was right and wrong, because God had told him earlier what was right and wrong to him and Eve. And Eve was deceived. And a lot of times, Scripture is now taught that Adam was right there beside her. Like, he was not deceived. He decided to do what she wanted. He trusted her for the wrong reasons. He knew better. There was a precedent that said, no, don't do this. But he did it anyways. And so with Manoah, there was none of that. There was not a precedent or a law that she was breaking by telling him to do these things. And so in that sense, it wasn't wrong. Now, something that I realized this morning while kind of reflecting more on this and still studying this verse or this story, because, oh my goodness, this story is a lot more complicated. The commentary, I started to dive a little bit deeper. The commentary is like probably 3 to 4 times longer than the actual story. But one thing that I did notice is that the angels or God always approaches the mother when it's about a birth. Every time. And I believe the only time that a angel or angel of God or God approaches a woman that has a husband is when there's a birth. If it's any other thing, God or the angel of God will always approach the man, at least in my memory of Scripture. I could be wrong there. I don't know exactly what that means, but that is what I have noticed from that. Something Steph and I were both agreeing as. We didn't want that video to turn into a feminist movement of all wives matter or, Me Too movement. Like, you always have to trust your wife no matter what. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about what I was trying to get across is, men, trust your godly wives. That doesn't mean that she takes the lead in the family, but that you should rely on her. God speaks to women. And a lot of times, yes, he affirms it in both of you. I believe that is biblical. But sometimes you should lean on her wisdom in things. And that's why God has given you a helper. But it has to be your discernment to decide, well, I should probably trust her in this. Those are the 3 main points, I think, that I really wanted to make about that story and how it really made me think. I really appreciate, I don't know if you want to stay anonymous, whoever who gave me some pushback on my last video. I really appreciated it. It made me think more. And that's always what I want. I want people to poke holes in what I believe, because I can either fill them up with the truth or it's going to let that boat sink. And I will get on a new boat that's correct, with correct theology.